Hi guys, welcome to another video. Hope you're all keeping well. Now for this video, I'd like to review a British horror movie from the early 70s, which I watched a couple of nights ago. It's an old favourite of mine, and each time I go back to it, I always enjoy it. Now that movie was made in 1971, and it's called The Blood on Satan's Claw. Now, as per usual, before I say anything more about the movie and giving me thoughts on the story as a whole, I'll just give you a little bit of background information, a little bit of background information on this movie. Okay, so the Blood on Satan's Claw is a 1971 folk horror movie. It stars Linda Hayden, Patrick Wymark, Barry Andrews, and Simon Williams. Now, I'll just read the blurb at the back anyway and just talk a little bit more about the movie. So this is actually scanned from a 4K master with a host of extras. Now, a human skull is unearthed in a small, isolated 18th century English village by a local farmer. The children form themselves into a murderous coven, and it is suspected that Satan's work is at play. Now, this is described as one of the greatest British horror films of all time, and I'd certainly second that. It's a fantastic movie, especially if you like folk horror. And yeah, it's also described as a living nightmare of black magic and unspeakable evil. Yeah, and this edition, guys, is packed with an actual plethora of special features. Just look at all those special features, guys. Interviews with the cast and that, and the director and that, and oh yeah, it's a fantastic movie. Directed by Piers Haggard. Yeah, all right then. So I'll just talk a little bit more about the movie before I give it a rating. Yeah. This is actually part of a trilogy of folk horror movies. The other two being the Witchfinder General and the Wicker Man. As I say, if you love folk horror, you haven't watched The Blood on Satan's Claw, I highly recommend that you check this movie out. Fantastic performances all round, especially by Linda Hayden as the sinister angel. Oh yeah, fantastic actress Linda Hayden, and Patrick Wymark as the local judge. Oh yeah, it's a fantastic movie. It really is. Absolutely all oozing with atmosphere. It really recaptures those times, like the early 17th century England and that, and all the superstitious fears and that, and witchcraft and devil worship, once this local farmer unearths this deformed skull in the ground and that, accidentally, basically all hell does break loose, because all the villagers and that, especially the young ones and that, they all become evil and that, and they all start doing these strange rituals and that. And I won't give away too much of the movie, just in case you haven't seen it. But as I say, once you unearth Barry Andrews' character unearths this skull in the ground, this deformed skull, it basically acts as a catalyst, and it just sets off like chaos and pandemonium really. But oh yeah, it's a great folk horror movie, this, guys. It really is, and it hasn't dated either. You can watch it anytime, and the transfer on this is absolutely immaculate. It really is. It's a gorgeous transfer. I have actually had this movie before on both DVD and Blu-ray, but this is the best edition I've had, guys. It really is, and that, especially with all those special features there, yeah, it's a fantastic. This is the best edition to get if you're going to get this movie. Absolutely fantastic, yeah. I must warn you guys, if you're a little bit averse to nudity or misses, there is a couple of naked shots here and there, so you'll have to shut your eyes, guys. Yeah. But yeah, it's very well done movie, this, and it's also known as Satan's Skin. Well, that was the original working title actually, but then they decided to change it to The Blood on Satan's Claw, which I think is a much better, more eye-catching title. I've got fond memories of watching this movie. As I say, it's an old favourite of mine. Yeah, fond memories of watching this movie as a kid. Like, I used to show the old horrors, in the 1970s and that, 10:30 on a Friday night, and this was one of the movies, guys. What they shown quite a bit, The Blood on Satan's Claw. Oh yeah, I love the cinematography, the woods and that, and the villages and that. You really get the feeling that something very evil is holding sway over this village. You know, it's you know, they did a really good job with this movie, guys. They really did. Blood on Satan's Claw, and Linda Hayden. Oh yeah, and when you think about it, like, a character's called Angel in this, but it's ironic. It's ironic really, because she's anything but an angel. In fact, she's a downright devil. You know, she seems to be the leader. Well, she is the leader of this sort of like you know, demonic cult and that, and she basically terrorizes the village really in that. You know, and there's also, I like the part where when some of the villagers get infected, you know, by the sort of like black magic force and they start growing like skin, like the devil's skin on the limbs and that, and and a couple of times it has to be cut off. You know, oh yeah, it's a real good folk horror. This, guys, it really is. If you love your British folk horror movies, I think you will love, if you haven't seen it, The Blood on Satan's Claw. Very, very atmospheric, great story, great cast, and oh yeah. All right then, guys. So on to a rating now for Blood on Satan's Claw. No hesitation, a full 10 out of 10. This is indeed one of the best British horror movies ever made, in my opinion. And it developed something of a cult following over the years, you know. And I think it's a very, very underrated movie, because you don't really hear it mentioned all that much, you know. When people say about the top 10 horror movies, the top 20 horror movies, you don't really hear this mentioned much. So although it has amassed a pretty cult following over the years, you don't really hear it all that much mentioned in people's favourites, all-time favourite horror movies. But oh yeah, and yeah, I can't recommend this movie highly enough, guys. If you love your folk horror, I think and Patrick Wymark, always really good, as is the rest of the cast, as the judge in that. You know, he's a bit cynical at first about suggestions of black magic and witchcraft, but the more he sees in that, as the horrors start to unfold in the village, the more he becomes convinced. So he ends up basically like a kind of the kind of character Peter Cushing would play, like a witch hunter or a vampire hunter. He becomes as determined as him and that. I believe there was a rumour that Peter Cushing was going to be considered for this, but if it was true, he probably would have been doing other things and that. But having watched the special features, the director said he wanted to do something different anyway from Hammer films. He didn't want to go down the normal, he didn't want to copy Hammer really, doing Dracula or Frankenstein. He wanted to do something different, and by golly, he succeeded, guys, in this movie, The Blood on Satan's Claw. It's a remarkable job. It's a great story. I would rate it... excuse me, I would rate it right up there with The Wicker Man and, as I say, The Witchfinder General, the greatest folk horror movies of all time. And I will be watching it again very soon with the commentary as well, because there's commentary on here. So I'm looking forward to watching it with the commentary, including Linda Hayden, Piers Haggard, the director, Robert Wynne Simmons, yeah, and then more commentary with Mark Gatiss, Jeremy Dyson, and Reece Shearsmith. Yeah. Oh yeah. So as I say, if you like your folk horror, you could do no worse than get yourself a copy of Blood on Satan's Claw. But if you're not, as I say, if you're not, get this edition. This is the best edition to get. The picture quality is just breathtaking. It really is, and a very, very atmospheric movie. And this is another movie what sort of like adds weight to my points that you don't really have to have a lot of blood and gore to make a decent horror movie. If you've got a good story and you've got good characters. Well, this is a prime example, guys. The Blood on Satan's Claw, and needless to say, this will never be leaving my horror movie collection. Absolutely love this movie. It's an absolute classic. So many memorable scenes and that, and the English woodland and that, and as I say, the superstitions of that particular time. They're really sort of like conveyed in this movie and that, because a lot of superstition in those days, like witchcraft and that, people suspected different people in the village of being witches and that, and then they had sort of like the atmosphere of Satanism and that, and devil worship and that. Oh yeah, it's all brought to the fore brilliantly in this movie, guys. Blood on Satan's Claw, yeah. Alright then, guys, that concludes my review of The Blood on Satan's Claw from 1971. Have you seen The Blood on Satan's Claw? What do you think of it? Do you share my opinion that it's one of the greatest folk horror movies ever made? Yeah, let me know in the comments down below. I'd be very interested, to hear your comments and that. Yeah, oh yeah, it's a great movie, yeah. And Linda Hayden, she's really on the money as a sinister angel. She's got that seductive look of it. Look at her eyes stand out and that, especially when she approaches one of the teachers and that, and try to seduce him and that. you know, and of course, you know, well, misses, you know, little bits of nudity here and there and that. But there you go, guys. I won't go on any more about it. Yeah. Okay then, guys. Yeah, so that concludes my review of Blood and Satan's Claw. Usual. If you like the video, leave your comments down below. You know, feel free to share. You know, subscribe. And before I go, I'll just remind you all, I'm on live again this Thursday night at 8 p.m. and I will be doing a Stephen King special. So if you're a fan of Stephen King, you know, you might be interested in coming along for a chat. Yeah, please do. I'd love to have you along in that. You know, because Stephen King, he is my favourite horror writer next to, well, basically him and James Harris are my two all-time favourites horror writers, and you know, always get his books when they come out and that, and yeah, so plenty to talk about with Stephen King. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. All right then, guys, that's it then. I'll talk to you all again soon. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.